Howdy, folks.
Howdy.
I'm Scott.
I'm Chris. We're two guys brewing. Well, this week we're doing our first all-grain beer. We're going to do it a kind of a simple method. We're going to use a brew in a bag, which is actually Scott's specialty.
Brewer bag. Yes, I've been doing a few batches that way recently, and I
like
like it.
It's actually a newer method of brewing. It's not that old, but
Old from the Aussies.
Yeah, it's very, very popular in Australia. And it works. I've seen some people that claim some very high efficiencies.
Makes sense. You can make the leap from extract or partial extract brewing to all grain with a little investment in equipment.
Yeah.
You just gotta buy a bag. It's all do everything in one pot still.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, definitely. It's a lot. Very low end. You don't need all of the mash tun, and you don't need the lard ton and all the other stuff that we get into.
There's a debate on whether you're taking a hit on efficiency. Might not be as efficient as
yeah. Like I said, I've seen some people that are claiming some pretty high efficiencies, higher than I get.
Right.
Even doing it the traditional method. So we'll see what we do tonight.
It works. It's simple. It's kind of
yeah. All right, and then now tonight's recipe. I can't remember what the name of it was.
You're telling me as he tells you.
I picked it up out of a book at the brew store. I walked in and I'm like, yeah, I need to brew a batch of beer, and I really don't have a recipe picked out. So we kind of, you know what? It's an IPA. That's it. It's an English IPA recipe. I remember now. That's why I got all that hops. The grains are all in this bag. They're all mixed together. They're already pre-ground. Generally, when you're buying grain, unless you have a grain mill like Scott does, you're going to want to have them grind it for you. If you're ordering it online, you can order it pre-ground at your local brew shop. They'll grind it for you. So what we did is I got 12 1/4 pounds of Maris Otter, which is an English 2-row malt. You could probably use any 2-row malt, American 2-row, whatever. There's not a huge difference. There's slight differences, very minor differences in color. Any of them would work.
Absolutely.
But Maris Otter is more of a traditional English, and I like Maris Otter.
I'm still learning the differences between them myself. And
I don't know why I like it.
Beers.
Just because it works out well.
It's supposed to be a little richer, a little more malty. And if you're gonna stick to a style, you're making an English bitter or something, it would be good to use an English ale yeast with a Maris Otter.
So then now for there's a few other grains in there. I've got 1/2 pound of biscuit, and the biscuit gives it that kind of a bready flavor. That's why it's called biscuit.
And it's another European type of.
And then we got some Crystal 40, or sometimes called Caramel 40, right?
Yeah, caramel crystal get used pretty interchangeably. 40 refers to the color. 40 degrees Lovabond.
Yep. We got 1/2 pound of that, and then we got another Crystal 120, which is actually even darker.
Pretty dark, more roasted, more.
And we got 6 ounces. The 1/2 pound is 8 ounces, right? So everything in American, just for if you're some other country, you can find conversions online. Deal. You know what? I got something. Oh, you know what? There's wheat malt in here too. 1/2 pound of wheat malt.
That's going to add to our head retention, give it a little bit of body, help out with the mouthfeel.
Yeah. I know. And for hops, now we're gonna have to do a little bit of math, but the recipe called for Challenger at 80%. The Alfast is at 80% at 1.43 ounces. Fuggles. 5% at 1.5 ounces. And
what times are these?
The Challenger is a 60-minute. The Fuggles is
that's our bittering hop.
Is a 10-minute.
Yeah, that's our aroma hop then.
And we're more of a flavor hop, I guess. And then we got Kent Golden, which I think I actually ended up with the U.S. Golden. Did I look?
It's it's UK.
UK.
East Kent Golding. Yeah.
Oh, it's an East Kent, even better.
It's an East Kent Golding.
East Kent Golding at 5%, and that also 1.5 ounces at 0 flame out. We're actually going to be having to do some math because the packages I bought are not 8, 5, and 5.
So he's got the UK East Kent Goldings here, and the alpha acid on them is 7.2. And I believe we hit this in an ounce, right?
Yeah,
So
generally.
1 ounce.
We'll do the math.
That's a 0-1, right?
Yeah.
The zero edition? I say just throw it in. The whole ounce.
It's
Even though the
calls for
alpha's
an
a little
ounce.
high.
Calls for an ounce and a half, so.
But our alpha's a little higher.
Right. So yeah. No, I'm just saying. And now for a yeast, it said to either use a London Ale or a Nottingham. And we're actually going to pitch this on a yeast cake from one of our previous sessions. It's not actually one of those. It is the Windsor Ale yeast. Not too dissimilar from the Nottingham, so we'll. But we're going to see that's a new method for we're going to be dealing with today. Pitching right on an existing yeast cake. I did that earlier this week, and the thing took off. I was gone for 12 hours. I came back, and it was roaring.
And it will.
And then it was
gonna do it.
It was done in a couple of days.
Or to have a blow off tube maybe or something. But I've done it a few times. Never had a trouble. Never had a bucket explode or or plugged up airlock or whatever. Some people do.
So this, in theory, if we hit our gravity readings, it does say an OG of 62 and an FG of 15. If we actually hit those on a 5-gallon batch, we should be somewhere around 6.2%.
A relatively large.
That's assuming that we hit our gravity readings. This is a single infusion mash at 152 degrees. So I think that when you do a multi-step infusion, that you tend to have a little better conversion. A single infusion, I tend to miss the mark on a single infusion almost every time.
Well, most modern malts, your barley, your two rows, whatever, whether it be Maris Otter or American 2-row or whatever, are all
pretty well converted.
pretty well converted when you get them. So
Yeah, you know what? I looked it up. Let me see if I can remember.
So you don't really need a protein rest, and so you're skipping that protein rest, going straight to the sacrification rest.
And what I work. And I looked it up, and when they malt the barley, it takes the gum out of the cells in the hull, so that it allows the sugars to come out, or the starches to come out, and it also converts the enzymes over to usable enzymes. Then when you mash, that's when you convert those starches to sugars.
You're actually creating the enzymes when you malt that can convert this, so that they're
breaking down. They're breaking down the
right.
ribosomes or whatever into enzymes. So
But basically, it's about making complex sugars into more simple sugars, so that the yeast can digest. And
well, I got a better understanding of it now. I mean,
that's what we're doing when we're mashing.
That's what we're doing
creating
when we're mashing.
We're giving the enzymes a chance to convert the
This
sugar.
is full of starches. We're going to make it full of sugar.
When we heat the water up to 152 degrees, we have our grains inside of our bag, our mesh bag, which we'll show you in a couple minutes. But that's the whole mashing process. Our grains already malted. We're going to mash it, and then we're going to brew.
Hi, I'm Steve Spears. I'm the owner of Dunkirk Homebrew. We are a local homebrew shop here in the Dunkirk, Fredonia area, located at 3375 East Main Road, Dunkirk, New York. We are a full-line supplier of beer and wine brewing equipment and supplies. Come on down. Most of my customers become my friends. Thank you.
With a malt extract, when you're boiling, as you're boiling your water, you lose some water to evaporation. You do lose a little bit to the yeast, to the hops. When the hops absorbs the water, you're going to lose a little bit of your wort to the hops also. With an all malt, got grain. And the grain also absorbs water, and you're definitely going to lose
A lot more water.
lose water to this. And this is a pretty big grain bill. That's what people call it. When you're the grain, all the grain you're putting in, it's not how much you paid for the grain, it's the grains that you're putting in. So that whole list I read you, that's what they would call that your grain bill. And this one's right around 14 pounds of grain total. So it's going to absorb a bit of water. So we're going to definitely lose some there. We're going to lose some to evaporation. We're going to lose a little bit of the hops. What we'll probably do is if we end up below 5 gallons, we may throw a little more in to bring it back up. Or we may not if we're not that far off. Now my tap water comes out about 120 degrees right in there. Single infusion, we want to be at about 152. Now, when you start dumping grain into your water temperature comes down.
It's going to cool. For us, it's pretty easy to adjust it though, because we can just turn on the fire and heat it up. Better to be too cool than too hot.
Yes, absolutely. If you get the hotter you get. Now we were talking about multiple steps. Each step in a grain infusion has different enzymes that are activated, and they do different things. Mostly what we're looking to do is just convert the starches to sugars. But Scott was talking about...
We want our step that we're concerned about today is
Right.
going to be between 146 and maybe 156, and we're going to shoot for 152, right around there. And that sounds like, 10 degrees, not that big a deal. It really is a big deal. A couple of degrees makes a big difference.
Now you were talking about the different rests, protein rests.
That's around 122 degrees, and if you have if you had a lot of wheat or a lot of rye in there, which are grains that cannot convert themselves, I think we touched on that before about when modern grains pretty much can convert themselves, but like barley can, like well-modified, well-malted barley does have diastatic power.
There you go.
That's
the word. That's the word
132, 134, 136, different ones, whether it's 2-row, 6-row, whether it's Bryce or Maris Otter, or so on and so forth.
But those different rests activate different enzymes, and once you get above, a degree or two above those temperatures, those enzymes break down. So if you were to cool your water back down, it's too late. Those enzymes are gone already.
Right. So you change those enzymes. You need those enzymes to convert the more complex sugar into a simple sugar that the yeast can chow down on and make the alcohol in your beer. So if it's too hot, the enzymes are gone. You end up with the complex sugars don't get broke down. The yeast can't eat it, and you end up with a sweet kitty beer.
Right, Scott?
Yep. I bet you've done that. Yes.
And there is an actual step that some recipes will call for called mash out. And basically that means you're bringing the temperature of your mash up to 170 degrees, and that eliminates all the enzymes. At that point, that stabilizes that wort right where it's at. It's never going to change. I mean, you can add adjuncts and whatnot, spices or whatever, but it's not going to change the underlying wort. It is set at that point.
That step comes at the end of your mash.
Not every recipe calls for it, but if
you were to do that at the beginning, you haven't given the enzymes any time to work and do their thing to simplify the sugars, and that's the problem.
So we want to make sure we don't get. I mean, I don't mind getting a few degrees above 152, and that's probably part of the reason why my efficiencies aren't what they should be.
Well, I think you can go in you can dump the grain in any time at 140 and then just turn the heat off at 152.
Right, and that's definitely an option here. We're still around 120 though, so we're.
See, with Brew in the bag style, when you're direct fire,
we definitely throw a cover on there to help that water. This is just water. Now you could do a multi-step with the Brew in the bag, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Just step,
That's what I thought. I just making sure.
The bag is just a filter. It just gives us a way to remove our grains from our wort. When it's done, we can just lift the bag out and then boom, there's our wort. So, Oh, we got our bag in place. Our water's getting up around 145, 150.
We're
It's time to
gonna
add the grain.
Yeah, we're gonna err on the side of caution. We're gonna add the grain early instead of late. I've never seen anything that said that that's a bad idea or any reason why you shouldn't.
I think it's a fine idea. I think you should. Let's go.
All right, so we're just gonna dump all the grain in at once. Scott's gonna kind of hold everything in place.
Can you get it over there close enough? Can you move it out?
We'll find out. I dump it all over the stove, you know I fucked it up.
Where's your big old spoon? I ought to be stirring at this point. We don't want dough balls.
Well, I don't know these things. I've never done this before.
Good enough. There we go. Alright, we're alright. We're good. Good. Dump on. Don't try to stir as you dump. Oh, it smells great. Oh, it smells good. Check the temperature
Yeah,
now.
sure,
Watch how
check
much
that.
that dropped. I bet it dropped a good 10 degrees.
What were we at before?
Oh, 145-ish, I would guess.
45-ish.
It was 140, but it took a few minutes when I...
Right around 135, so I think we're pretty spot on. We lost somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees of temperature by dumping that grain in. And like I said, you can go online and there's lots of calculators and whatnot online. I think that was what I was looking for before. It was calculators.
Pro Mash, Brewer's Friend.
And, those calculators will tell you what how to do your mashing temperatures based on your method and
The
how
equipment
many
you
gallons.
have, the size of your batch, the temperature of your grain, the temperature of the water.
Yeah, I've been playing around a lot with Brewer's Friend, which is an
It's a
online.
nice site.
Yeah, you can register and you can play for free. You can do up to 5 recipes, I think, and 5 brew sessions.
Oh, is that how it works?
That's what it said, basically. Yeah, I mean, if you can do 5 saved recipes. You can play with it all you want. 5 saved recipes, and you can't delete them, but you can change them. You can edit them.
Hey, my golden ale became a stout.
There you go. But it's like $10 a year, whereas like $100 for you for the rest of your life. So that's not a bad thing. I've been playing around with it. I'm planning at this point on having all of our recipes on there actually. I'll put that information on the website. But that would be, I'd imagine you should be able to go to Brewer's Friend and do a little search on Two Guys Brewing and find all our recipes on there.
Now, it's kind of critical here is that we don't get
The wrong end of the thermometer into the mash.
we don't want to go too hot.
It is easy at this point when you're at lower temperatures. It doesn't take as much heat or as much time to raise the temperature up quickly. It takes a lot less to get your mash from 120 to 150 than it does to get from 190 to 220. So it's
All I know is if we get to 160, I'm going to be bumming.
yeah, and
That wouldn't be the end of the world. Get to 170, then that
We're done.
would not be good.
but you do want to keep stirring, especially when you're taking your temperature, because you will get hot spots and cool spots.
Well, I am stirring like pretty good. And I think it helps out with the efficiency with the brew in the bag method here.
If you do just dump it in, you was talking about you don't want dough balls. I mean, it will clump together, and then you got to try and push them up against the side.
And you do that no matter what your mash tun is, whether it's a cooler or you want to stir when you add your grain to the hot water. And you always want to add your grain to the hot water, not the hot water to your grain. Don't ask me why, but you don't.
You read it online somewhere, so it has to be true. There's probably research involved, so don't hesitate to go look it up for
It
us.
seems logical to me. It's the way I've always done it. I've never done it the other way.
I've never heard of anyone doing it the other way around.
Add your grain to the hot water, not your hot water to the grain.
We're at 52, so we're going to kill the heat here. By the way,
You sure?
yeah, sugar off.
Okay.
All right, and then
Got a lid for it now?
yeah, that big lid there. We got enough grain in here that we're probably good. If that thermal mass will hold its heat probably for about an hour, which is what you want.
It'll be fine. It might lose 2 or 3 degrees. not a
It might,
problem.
it might not.
Right.
Because when you get this big of a grain bill, it doesn't drop much. So we're at 743. So 843. This will be. This should be done. We'll take the bag out. Scott will wring it out, burn his hands. That's his job. He knows what he's doing. I don't. I might get hurt. And then we'll.
I'll make another six-pack before that. Probably gonna happen too.
So I wanted to hit a little bit on hops, kind of like a hops 101 thing here. Just when you're buying hops, some things to keep in mind. Generally speaking, when you buy hops, depends on where you're getting them. Sometimes it just tells you the name of the hops and how many ounces it is. That's kind of the exception, but I've definitely ended up with a couple of pounds of hops that way over the years.
Think about hops that don't have an AAU rating, and it's kind of a bummer.
Right, yeah. So, but usually it's going to have at least an AAU rating on it.
AAU rating, I guess.
Well, no, alpha acid units.
Alpha acid. Well,
Alpha acids are measured in AAUs or alpha acid. Most of the information I got here I got right off of, I think it was the Midwest website. And what their contention is, AAUs tells you which is alpha acid units, and that tells you what percentage 1 ounce of hops, of those hops, has of alpha acids. And alpha acids are generally your bittering. 4.5% AAU. You know, if you got 1 ounce of hops, it's you got 4.5%. If you got 2 ounces of hops, it's still 4.5%. But you got 2 ounces at 4.5. And they're generally added for bittering at 60 minutes. If you do shorter, if you do 30 minutes, you're still going to get some of that bitter.
Some bittering units out of it, but less.
Right. And play with your calculators. Or if you've got a good homebrew book, it should have tables and stuff in it, and it'll tell you. At 30 minutes, at 10 minutes, multiply by this number. A lot of times, when you're reading recipes, it's going to talk about AAUs, and what they're actually talking about are HBUs, or homebrew units. And a lot of times, people use them interchangeably. And what you're doing is, for the homebrew units, is you take your AAUs and multiply it by how many ounces of hops you're using. But the homebrew unit is, you basically take the AAUs off of the package. Say if you're at 6.5%, and you're using 1.5 ounces of 6.5% cluster hops. Your HBUs are going to be 6.75 HBUs, and a lot of recipes will actually say 6.75 AAUs. So, if you're reading a recipe and it says, this hops at this AAU, just know that they're actually talking HBUs.
Was there an IBU in there somewhere?
IBUs coming up, actually.
Okay.
International bittering units. And that is basically how much bittering is in your final product. And there's formulas to do that. It's beyond the scope of this for me to go into all the details on how to do that. Go online and get a calculator. That's the easiest method by far. I'm sure if you've got a book, there's a fairly simple recipe, or formula. But if you actually want an accurate number, it's a pretty involved formula. If you're really lucky, your hops will not only have the alpha acids listed on the package, but it will also have the beta acids listed on the package. They're also given as a percentage. Think about beta acids. Now they still are bittering. They will add bittering to your beer, but not from boiling. You boil them and they couldn't care less. But what happens is when the beer is sitting in your fermenter, those beta acids interact with the riboflavin and they oxidize, and that's where they cause their bittering. So they can actually increase your IBUs while sitting in the fermenter. And a lot of times, the beta acids don't add a real pleasant flavor. So Generally, you kind of want to keep those lower.
To make that clear, all hops have beta acids.
Yes. They just may not be
They
listed.
very rarely list the beta acids, but sometimes they do.
Yes.
So.
And lower is better. Your noble hops tend to have your alphas and your betas
Yes.
pretty close. They're like a kind of a 1-to-1. Whereas,
Noble hops generally are like German hops.
Yes. And then the other thing that's in the hops that we really care about is your essential oils. And that's where you get your flavors and your aromas. If you want flavoring, you're adding your hops at about 15 minutes. For the aroma, that's more 5 minutes to flame out, or even dry hopping, where you put them right into the fermenter after the beer is done.
Now you could use the same hops for bittering and flavoring, but if you're going to boil it for 60 minutes, all those essential oils are going to be destroyed and gone. You're not going to have any aroma left. I mean, the smell's going to be gone. It's going to all be converted into bittering. Now you got that same hop at flame out, zero boil.
You're not converting any of those alpha acids
or
to
dry
bitter at all.
hopping, right? And that's going to add some aroma
And you don't get any bitter because those alpha acids have to be hard boiled. They have to be ramming into the other parts of the beer in order to convert over to the bittering. Now, there is a way to add your hops to get the essential oils without losing them, and that's called first wort. And I just started experimenting with this.
I haven't used it much. I read about it and understand it. I'm not sure I agree with what you just said, but I'm not going to disagree yet either. So let's go.
That's what I read online.
Yeah.
So it has to be true. But basically, you put the hops in with a mash, like we're doing here. If you were to put those hops in
now, or right at the end of the mash.
right at the end of the mash,
We're still going to heat up to the boil.
But before you start boiling, what that does is that gives those essential oils a chance to get into solution with the wort. Whereas when you throw the hops
you get
in,
to boiling.
before they get to boiling,
Yeah.
because if you throw the hops in, those essential oils don't have a chance to get into solution, and they just boil off. Whereas if they're put in early before you're boiling, you're not driving them off. They got time to get into solution with the wort.
And apparently there's some chemistry going on
You still get bittering out of
Right,
it. though.
apparently there's I don't know why. Well, our time's up.
Yeah, we're at an hour. Our infusion is done. We're done mashing. So now we're going to take the grains out. And then we're going to turn the heat on.
What's our temperature, Chris?
Look at the numbers, Scott.
Right here.
Let's see here. 150, so it might even be a skosh over. So we dropped less than 2 degrees in an hour.
So we're going to take the bag out now. So we got our bag with all our grains.
Alright, should
in
I
it.
put something underneath there?
If you got something, I mean, this is a pretty heavy grain thing.
Liquid out of it back in, right?
We're putting some of the liquid out of it right now. I've got it above the thing. It's pretty damn hot.
Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm
you need
okay.
to do anything?
Well, you're alright. You're at that. That helps a little bit. But it's still draining. Still getting our wort, you know.
Actually, I think a lot of the recipes say not to squeeze the bag, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it's bullshit. Squeeze it. This helps your efficiency if you're doing brew in the bag style.
You're getting as much liquid.
If it was a bag of hops or something, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But right now, with 14 pounds of grain,
You want to get the water. You want to get as much of that wort out of there as you can. And
there are better ways to do it. But like, we're not, you know, our whole point about Two Guys Brewing is do it however you can. Don't be afraid to try to brew,
you know,
use,
you know, just because somebody tells you it don't work, don't believe it.
you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a grain bag ringing device. You just gotta burn your fingertips a little bit. Still getting more and more.
You
Oh,
figure
good.
every cup of this we get in there is a cup of wort with appropriate amount of sugar in it. Every cup we don't get out of this that we have to add back in with straight
Right.
water has no sugar in it. So.
And this is the good part. This is
Now we could,
alright.
In
I think
theory-
I got most of it, Chris.
Yeah.
We can
we could in theory take a gravity reading at this point, and a lot of people do. It's not something that's necessary. I'll set this here for now. But some people like to do it just to know what their gravity is going into the boil. And you know, if you want to, that's your own prerogative. I see no practical reason.
If you get to the point where you have a refractometer and you only have to take a couple drops to do it, that's a really practical thing, and it is good information.
When you're brewing, every step of the process is a place to lose efficiency. And if you know what your gravity reading is at this point, you can compare that to what you come off at the end of the boil. And if you've lost something in there, then you know that you could know that is, you know, where your problem is or where the potential problem is. In my opinion, you know, that's a lot of extra work. Let's take a look and see what we ended up with. We ended up with about 5 1/3 gallons. So we're we're probably going to end up slightly less than 5 gallons when we're done boiling, because I usually lose about a half gallon.
We're going to add back in at the end.
We can, or not.
We could add it in now. It all depends on what you
Or
want
not.
to do, or not.
You know, if we end up with 4 2/3 gallons in the fermenter, I'm pretty much okay with that. You know, I don't really want start adding water. That's going to lower our gravity, lower the alcohol content, and I don't know that I'm good.
Okay, so we have a rolling boil.
We do. We weren't sure because there was so much thick foam on top. We weren't 100% sure.
It takes a while if you're trying to do 5 gallons on a slow pot.
So 9:37, probably 9:38 by the time I get this in. This is our Challenger. It's actually UK Challenger.
Our bittering hops.
Our bittering hops. I did a little bit of math, and with AAUs on this, it should be 1.65. We're in that neighborhood, 1.66. Wow. Somewhere in that neighborhood. It might be 1.5, but it's close.
Oh, good. Don't worry about it too much. You don't have to be exact.
This is uncleaned from the last time we used it.
Yes.
We don't care.
Camera on.
Yeah. We do not care.
The water's hot.
Water's hot, shit's coming out, watch out.
20 minutes, right? Yeah, Chris, definitely watch out.
Okay,
Okay.
so, weren't you listening?
Well, I don't want you to hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt myself.
You see how that happens?
I've seen it numerous times.
That isn't what happened to me though.
No, it's not. But we're good.
But yeah, be careful
We
because
went over that too. The only thing you haven't done is show the camera your scar.
we'll do it again.
Show the camera your scar and I'll do it again. This is your beer.
I show my camera scar. I'm not ashamed of it. And if it helps anyone from ever getting hurt again, it's all good. Edit it out.
That was...
Don't matter.
No.
But,
how many months ago was that? That was over the summer. That was like July.
About 6 months ago.
Yeah, about 6 months ago. That was July. This is December.
It don't hurt anymore. It's all gone away.
Yeah, well, you should have seen it when it was fresh and new, man. The thing was like as big as his knee.
You know, if there's anything I can do to stop that from happening to somebody else, I'm there.
What he's saying is, this is boiling hot water, and that's a 3rd-degree burn.
Pay attention to what's going on. If your broom partner is an idiot, don't let him burn you. If you're an idiot,
If your brewing partner's an idiot, stay sober. And we are 10 minutes to go. I know I said 5, but I lied. It was 10. So we're going to put our fuggles in. This is a U.S.
Ready,
fuggle.
set, go!
Now we're supposed to be doing an ounce and a half. I did the math, 1.44 ounces. That's what my scale said. I believe it. Sometimes.
Don't believe yours, just pour it in.
So we're good. Alright, now got 10 minutes to go. Our next is the Kent Golding, which we're going to be throwing in at Flame Out. Ebony Park. Alright, this is our
Glad you're keeping track.
Kent Golding, which is actually we're using an East Kent Golding, which is a very specific kind of Golding because it's grown in the east part of Kent, as opposed to the rest of Kent. UK, which is kind of redundant. If you're using an East Kent Golding, it by default is a UK. And yeah, we're at Flame Out. Turn the heat off.
Alright.
Dump the hops in. Sweet. I'll give that a little stir.
Up and around a little bit. Stir it up. That's all good.
And we used an ounce. Turned out pretty close. Recipe ended up calling for 1.044 ounces, and I just said we were close enough. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's close enough.
Alrighty. You want to move your beer and your body, and I'll put the heavy hot thing here.
Okay.
You move. Why don't you hold those so I don't get burned?
I don't want to burn you. I've been burned myself, so I understand what he's saying.
He's got more sympathy for me than I had for him. Is what he's saying. But then again, he knows what he's doing.
I don't want to be stupid.
I had no fucking clue. All right, so there we go. We're good to go, right? Just pop this aerator off.
Cheers.
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 All right, we're at 4 3/4 gallons.
Okay.
We were supposed to be at an OG of 62, and we are at an OG of 74 plus at least 1 degree, one point for temperature. So that's like a 75.
So we don't have very much. We
Why
got a
are
little
we
bit.
so high?
We got a little bit of high gravity
We
beer.
are way high on this. And then we're doing Windsor. This stuff is going to be sweet. Windsor is not going to cope well with this. We're a little high. I'm all right with that. That means more alcohol. Or sweeter, or both. Not complaining, I'm just surprised. Not what I was expecting at all. Usually my efficiencies are 60%. Certainly not 80.
Kind of two guys brewing. Now what are we going to do that?
All right, now this
are
here.
We gonna dump it, are we going to dump it on an old pail?
This is our yeast cake from, doesn't that look absolutely gross and nasty? That is our yeast cake from episode 3. I just bottled this beer a couple of days ago. Now I would have preferred to have bottled that beer and then within a few minutes dumped that on top of it.
Did a taste thing.
But I bottled it a few days ago, and we taped this episode a little bit late because of restraints on everybody's time. It's holiday season for us. So what we're going to do is we're just going to...
Now we're two guys brewing, but we have lives.
Speak for yourself.
Alright.
So we're just going to...
Pour.
No. You know how I was liking it in.
You want to pour?
No, don't pour. Do not pour. No, do not pour. I don't want that crap off the bottom in there. Alright.
Well, see, you could pour.
You could pour it. It'd probably be
What's
a
the
really
difference?
good idea because you want
Hey,
but
two
we're not doing
guys
that
brewing. Why do you pour and why do you not pour? No, it's all good.
That's they all know the answer to that question. Alright. Pumpy, pumpy, pumpy. 1, 2, we're good. 3, we're having fun now. Alright, and we'll
Get as much oxygen into the water as we can right
because this is the only and the one time
that you ever want to have oxygen in your water or in your work.
course, you probably haven't heard that as many times as I have, because I've had it out a couple times. But this is still the only M the one time.
Jeez, man, don't say that again.
Look, and see what happened there? I lifted it up too high. And I got.
What the hell are you doing? No, man. You can't just hold it.
Yeah, you're dumping it on the floor. Get out of here. I'm doing it.
You gotta jiggle it.
I'll do it. You get away. You're dumping it on the floor, man. I was having fun.
Damn, you gotta jiggle it. You gotta shake it. You gotta shake it like a mean. No.
No, we're good. Oh, you're not putting anything on my floor. I already got to clean up after you once.
Such a politician.
So anyways, we're pitching right on top of the yeast cake here. Well, that's not so much a cake as a yeast slurry. This, usually when you pitch your yeast, it takes, somewhere around 24 hours. Generally, it's a general rule for it to start going. This will probably be cooking in 6 to 8 hours. And it'll probably be completely fermented out in a day and a half. Well, you gotta figure you're at this point you are pitching on probably 4 times as much yeast
As it should take.
Now, being that it's 3 days old, maybe we're pitching on 3 times as much yeast as we should be. But we're still severely over pitching this beer, as opposed to that Belgian style ale yeast we used a few weeks ago. Where we severely underpitched, and I'll be honest with you, that beer turned out just fine. We're at about 4 1/4, so yeah.
There, right there's where the old lid was.
No, I'm looking down here. I'm looking at where we're at.
Right,
Get your finger out of there. Get your finger out of there before you contaminate it.
You're low.
Alright, so we're at 4 1/4. Definitely, that's probably why we're at 1.072 as opposed to 1.07 or 62. So we're definitely a little short. And we got, I'd say we only got half gallon in there. All said and done, we'll probably end up with about 4 gallons. That's all right. That'll fill up a few bottles. So we're good to go here. So we'll be drinking it in a few weeks and giving it our.
I hope you'll be drinking it with us.
If you want to be a guest on our show,
I'll hug you.
You're going to be up in the Dunkirk, Fredonia, New York area. Send us an email. And usually we brew on Tuesdays, but that's not a hard and fast rule. Let us know when you're going to be around, and we'll have you over, and you can be here and drinking with us.
Sure.
Sláinte.
Here at Dunkirk Homebrew, we offer a wide selection. Our malt extracts are Brees liquid, Muntins liquids, Brees dry malt extracts, Brewer's Best beer ingredient kits, and we carry a full line of grains from Avantgarde, German malt, Dingemans, Muntins, Brees, a full line of specialty grains, special B, flaked rice, white wheat, you name it, we've got it. And we will crush it for you, no charge.
And this, alright, this is episode 6. This was our brew in a bag one. Oh, that did not fizz at all.
Brew in a bag beer.
It's flat.
Yeah.
Oh, just a little bit.
It's got a little bit. Alright. This is the youngest, but it should be still about. I might have to open another one. I think I give myself too much.
Well, go ahead and do whatever. All right, save some for Joy.
No, we'll just open another one.
All right.
Is that E6?
If it's red, yeah, that's E6. It's time to start drinking in earnest in a minute anyway. That one didn't open any different than this one did.
It did make a lips.
Oh, they did, yeah. But this was our brew in a bag. I don't remember what the recipe was, but it was our first all grain.
Yeah, and then we just walk in and buy like added a couple pounds of Munich to a bunch of 2-row. I mean, I think wasn't it pretty simple?
That might have been. It might have been.
Sweet. I forget what hops. I think we just used some hops that you had on hand though.
Very sweet.
Some, It is sweet.
And you know what? Did we overcook it? Did we let our temperature get too high on that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. What are the odds? I don't remember.
Yeah.
A couple of them nights I was pretty toasted. Like an episode 2 and 3 and 4
and
1 and 6. All right. Oh, shall I go?
Yeah, you go ahead, Chris is still.
All right, I gave it for aroma. I gave it a 6 out of 12. I mean, it just not much aroma there. Just it has little. That's what my comment was. Appearance, I give it a 2 out of 3 because we couldn't. Maybe it's fine.
It
but
looks
doesn't
gorgeous
have
in
a whole
my
lot of
glass.
head. Yeah, it does. Look, it's fine. It's clear. Whatever. None of them have much head. No lacing. Just looks flat almost to me now. You can shake it and get a little out of it, I guess. But anyway, so I only got a 2 out of 3 there. Flavor, I only gave it a 10 out of 20. My comment is just not quite there. There's like, and it's sweet and it's not nothing to balance that malty sweetness. So I don't know what kind of hops or what we did with this beer, but it's just. And for mouthfeel, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It almost burns a little bit. Like I said, it didn't seem like it was low alcohol because it almost. I don't know. It's a little different than I would describe as warm, but anyway. So, in overall impression, I gave it a 6 out of 10, and again, just not there. So it's a total of 27. It's drinkable, but it's not the best beer we've ever made by any stretch.
And I gave it a 22 out of 50. I gave it a 10 out of 12 for aroma. And it's kind of a sweet aroma, slightly metallic. 3 out of 3 for appearance. In my glass, it looked fine. Had a nice head to begin with. It's gone away. Flavor, I gave it a 3 out of 20. It's extremely astringent. It's almost like drinking, I don't know, Listerine.
Wow.
I gave it a 2 out of 5. Very astringent. It lingers afterwards. It's actually worse than my Listerine. I gave it, it's horrible. I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Tastes worse than Listerine. Tastes worse than Listerine. Which I wouldn't say Listerine is at all sweet, and this was sweet, so I.
I think like astringent too. I think of like biting a lemon or a sour ball or something too, or just like that pucker is like that. I don't know. That makes you pucker is what
I'm going to be extremely generous here. I think I definitely rated this beer higher than anybody else. I broke 3 10s on this one. Broke 3 10s. All right, I gave it an 8 on aroma. It like Scott said, it's kind of a little weak on the aroma. I mean, you can smell a little bit, but it's a sweet smell. That's all I really can smell. It's like
there's a smell, but it doesn't smell like beer.
It smells like a malt.
It looks like cider in there. So that's
appearance, I gave it a 2. It definitely, even using Julie's glass and seeing that it looks nice and clear in there, I had very little head. So oh geez, thank you so much. Because I liked it the best. I get to drink the rest of it.
There you go.
Flavor, I gave it a 13 out of 20. I think it's very sweet, needs more hops. It's got some kind of an aftertaste I didn't get a chance to read through. And mouthfeel, I gave it a 3 out of 5. Poor carbonation, and that the carbonation I think makes a big difference on mouthfeel because that goes right, leads right into the warmth and everything on it. Overall impression, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Not my favorite beer. I've had a lot worse. I've had a lot worse that I bought at the store.
I agree. I don't think it's the worst one I tasted tonight. So
really,
but I don't know if I scored one lower.
I don't think you did. But I ended up at 32. Out of 50. So, and I'm reasonably certain that we got to let our temperatures get too high on this one. You would know better than we would because you've watched it.
We'll have to go back and look at the
tape. But I think let that be a lesson to you. Don't let your temperatures get too high.
There is one that definitely did get warm on us. Like
it was either this one,
around
this one, it might be
9 or something. I think
it might be episode 7 too. So that one might be a little sweet too. That one's still in the fermenter. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so what are we drinking? What are you drinking?
Whatever
I
you
think
want.
episode 3 is what I rated the best.
Drink whatever you want.